everyone, it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you how I bound my gel print art journal made with all sorts of gel prints from March and April. There's a playlist of me printing all those, and I will put it in the iCard above. So the first thing I did was to cut 2 pieces of corrugated cardboard into 9 by 11.5, and you've seen me decorate those in the video previous to this one. Then I made this template by making a line 1/2 inch in from the edge of the 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, which is the same size as the pages. And then I measured in along that line 1 inch from the top and 1 inch from the bottom and made a mark. And then I made a mark exactly in the center of that line. And then that is my 3 hole punched areas. And then I laid that on my covers and marked where I wanted to punch my holes, and I'm using a crocodile hole punch to do this, the smaller sized punch, not the big one, not the big 1/4 inch one or whatever it is. So then I took the pages and evened them all up, a little stack of them, clipped them together with, what are those called, bulldog clips, and then marked and punched. And with this crocodile, I can punch through several layers of cardstock. So I didn't have to do each individual page individually. There is 45 pages, and they are made out of 8.5 by 11 cardstock that's been gel printed on both sides. So there's pattern on both sides. So when the thing is bound, they will just flip through and there'll be something on every single page, which will be a total of 90 pages I can work on. So it's a big art journal, big one. So here's my last stack. I cut a little bit of that out because why would you need to watch that over and over and over? You know, I'm punching holes. So then after everything was punched, I went ahead and I decorated the covers, which is in the previous video, like I said. And then I'm getting ready to bind them using a series of easy slip knots, which ends up looking like macrame to me. I don't think it's really called macrame. I'm not sure what you're supposed to call this kind of binding, but I saw a friend of mine, Bea Grobe, do it on a video, and I will put her video here in the iCard so that you can go. She was using the crazy pages that she got from a crazy page collaboration to do hers, and her pages are all different sizes, so it's interesting to see how she did it. So to bind it, I'm using hemp twine that's been dyed blue, and the person that Bea learned how to do this from's video, which I also watched, said to allow for 2 inches for each page. So I did that. I said, okay, I've got 45 pages, so I made my 3 pieces of hemp 90 inches long. And then the process is simple. You start with the back and you put the strings through, and then you split and put them through. So that's the start. So you make like a loop and you put them through, and then that's the beginning, that's the base. And then as you're doing the pages, you put the strings, okay, you basically got them in a stack, how they're going to be. So I've got my back laid down with the outside of it down, and then in the other stack I've got all the pages. And I did sort these pages to make, I chose which ones would be together with each other, trying to make them somewhat coordinated on both sides. So I have them in a specific order. So then you take the ends of your string, put it through from behind, and then split it apart, split the strings apart, and pull the string through the center of the split strings. Now I discovered pretty quickly, that was where I bumped the camera because I'm like lifting my arm up with this long string and I whacked the camera. I discovered pretty quickly, well, right there in fact, that I was going to tear these pages. I want these knots to be pulled snug. And so I decided that I was going to need to reinforce all these holes. So I had, yeah, this is where I'm thinking, okay, I need to go from the back and out through the, yeah. It's a very, very, very simple process once you get into the groove of it. There's not much thinking required once you start doing it. But this took me a minute. This was not quick. It took me a while to finish this. So on that one, I took my torn hole and I reinforced it with some masking tape. But then I went and got some punched hole reinforcers, which I have a ton of them left over from Stampin' Up! Days. And it would be much easier, and if you were going to reinforce all your holes, I'd recommend getting those ones at the office store that are sticky, because that would be so much easier than what I'm doing. But I already had all these little cardstock punched ones from a punched out sheet of stuff from Stampin' Up! A long time ago. They're made out of cardstock, and so I just swirled a little bit of tacky glue around each hole and then laid the reinforcer, which is basically like a donut. Some of them are square with the hole and some of them are round with the hole, over the top of them and glued them down. And I did this on both sides of every single page, except for the very first two, which I strung before I realized I needed to do this. So if you calculate that, I had 45 pages, so that's 90 if you count both sides, times 3. So 3 times 9 is 27. So that's 270 reinforcer thingies that I glued down. So you can see why it would be easier to do them with the sticker ones if you have them. But I already had these. I've had them for years, and so I just decided to go ahead and use them. In some cases I used white, in some cases I used craft, and it just depended on the color of the page. And as I go through and make these actual art journal pages, I can cover up those hole punch things with some paint. It won't be a problem. So it just took some time. So I kind of did it in batches, and then once I got those on there, I realized that it was much easier to pull the strings tight. I didn't tear out the holes anymore. So I wanted to make sure they were very snug. I didn't want them to be loosey-goosey, because just this binding by its nature is actually kind of loosey-goosey. So I wanted to get them as tight as I could. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me do 45 pages, but I did want to show, I used some beeswax. This is just, I have a few bars of beeswax, and I put it on the string, and eventually I got enough beeswax on there that I could put the two pieces together and just kind of roll them together into one, and it made kind of almost like a needle. And once I did that, this went really quick. When they were separated and they started to fray, it made this a little bit more difficult. But once that beeswax was on all the strings and they were all rolled together tight, it was super easy to do this. And my method was to start with the center hole, pull it through, then do the top and bottom, and then split the center hole and push it, through the center, pull, and then at that point flip the page over to the other side and then do the bottom and the top. So got all that done, and as you can see, there's not much string left. So you definitely need 2 inches for each page, maybe even a little bit more wouldn't have been bad. But this worked out fine. This is my cover, and I'm doing the exact same process, pushing the thing through, flipping it over, putting the thing through the center, pulling it tight, and then I wanted to put something on there that was decorative, and I was going to use these 12mm beads and just put the strings through that. Also, I thought it might help it be a little bit more sturdy, but once I tried to thread the string through the hole, it wasn't big enough, and I wasn't going to sit there and mess with it. So I just decided to tie them into knots to keep it on there. So I split the two pieces up apart, pushed them back into the center, and then tied 4 square knots over the inside knot there, and then trim the ends, and that will hold fine. I just thought it would be kind of cool to have something on there, but after I did it, I thought maybe you could use a washer, and that might be kind of cool to tie on there, or you could put some dangles or charms or something on there if you wanted to. It's just my bead didn't have a big enough hole. I do now remember that I have some wooden beads that have bigger holes, and that probably would have worked. But at this point, it's all tied up and done, and I'm not gonna mess with it. So just pulling the strings tight on the inside, tying them into 4 square knots, and then trimming them off to finish it. So at this point, the book is done, and I'm just going to give you a flip through. So you can see what it looks like. The pages are fairly loose, and it will lay flat completely. There's what the binding looks like. It kind of looks like macrame. And then here are all my pages. That first page is done because I did that the other day when we were doing stencils on the live show, on Art Joy of Sharing live stream. And so all the rest of the pages are not done. And these are all double-side printed gel prints made in the months of March and April on 8.5 by 11 cardstock. Most of it is white cardstock that has a glossy side and a matte side, which doesn't matter because I put paint on it. And then there are some in here that are black cardstock, like that one right there is black cardstock. So this is my gel print journal. I'll be using it throughout. You'll see it come on when I'm doing some art journaling in it, and then I'll probably use it for the November daily art journaling challenge, whatever sort of thing we do this year. This will be our 4th year of doing it, and usually Peg and I just make up our own prompts, and we have a prompt for each day and a video for each day. So I haven't actually talked to her to see if she still wants to do it this year, but I plan to do it, and this is the book that I plan to work in. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please remember to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment so I know you were here, or if you have a question about the binding. I'll be sure to put links to other videos that you can watch about this binding, and I certainly did not invent it. I have never heard of it until I saw Bea do it on her Crazy Pages book. And then I did bring in the other journal that I did, because all through the process I told you I was going to make a journal like this one. This is the very first gel printing journal I did, and the pages are folded in half. So it's much smaller, and that's what I thought I was going to do, but I ended up doing this instead. So that's it for me. Thanks. Bye-bye.